because this is a Mr. President who had seen the coffers of the nation, that the money that could have been kept for the rainy day had been siphoned, and that his country is almost broke, and that the oil price had fallen drastically in that region, that his people are suffering poverty, they are suffering despondency, despair, and that the children are dying, and most of the children could not go to school because their parents could not afford that. Therefore, he had nowhere to politic or to be semantic and say, yes, why do you apologize? So he went straight. I think it's the most profound statement Mr. President had made in recent time. Because when you look at something like the hike in the fuel price, is it not because with the regime that he succeeded was fantastically corrupt, that he didn't keep for the rainy day, that could cushion the subsidy? That is what we are suffering today. So Mr. President is aware that all the promises he made to the country to revamp our economy, to provide jobs, cannot be achieved. Because when oil was between $90 to $100 per barrel, there was no savings made. And immediately he came to the regime, he could see how people turned the office of the National Security Advisor into a slush fund. So will he now go to Britain to start addressing the niceties of Mr. Cameron? Why did you abuse my country? He said, no, we came here for a purpose. And the purpose is that, yes, because we are fantastically corrupt, we are coming here to beg the international community. As Christian Lagarde said, he said corruption is pollution. That our country has been polluted. That the poverty on the ground is so high that I do not even know the face I will use to face the Nigerian people. Because in 1994, in his first coming, he resisted removal of fuel subsidy. But this time he's compelled to agree to the market forces because the oil revenue makes over 80% of our foreign earnings, and by extension our foreign reserves. The same oil controls about 40% of our activities, both small, medium, and large industrialists. And at the same time, the cost of fuel importation is also taking over 40% of the foreign earnings of this country. Therefore, with the dwindling of oil reserve, the naira had collapsed, and it became difficult for importers of the fuel products to be at it as they used to be. And it became difficult for the regime to augment, in whatever nature or name you call it, either deregulation or subsidy. So Mr. President made a profound statement, and the world recognized his statesmanly statement. And I think that statement is a takeaway for all those who attended that conference. Because if he had come there to be apologetic, to start defending his countrymen who actually have been exposed wrongly as highly corrupt, it could have been a different Megaskia. Those who call him Megaskia were not stupid. Megaskia in Hausa means the man of truth. And Mr. President stood on his ground as a man of truth.
Okay.
And the Nigerians should understand that whatever we are doing now, because in 2012 we resisted the fuel hike, but we can't resist it now because we are now clear that there's no money to augment.
Okay,
There's
Mr.
no money in the
Okechukwu, thank you.
Otherwise, Mr. President,
thank you, Mr. Okechukwu. Thank you, thank you.
I think it is very important to put things in perspective. What the president said to Mr. Cameron was only reasonable. But we shouldn't go to the roof to shout that the president had done marvelously well, because it was him who set the tone in London that Nigeria and Nigerian leadership was corrupt, even before he became the president. So when you call your basket a waste basket, you will not quarrel with a neighbor who dumps garbage in it. It doesn't make sense because it's already declared a wastebasket. So since the president, the highest office holder in the country, has admitted, and consistent with that admission, there are a lot of activities, and these countries have their embassies in this country. And the newspapers and the media is awash with a snippets, about corruption. So the country has been painted, even by our own leadership, which is not necessarily true, because there are a lot of very good Nigerians, or some of those who may want to be corrupt but never had the opportunity of being corrupt. But everybody have been painted with the same brush, which is not true. So the president did not do anything or say anything exceptional. He was only protecting himself from the pronouncements he had made. Because if he had demanded an apology, then that would have been an intellectual harakiri.
Okay. Yes, please.
Mr. Naji, I agree with you on the issue of labeling, that the underdeveloped and developed nations, the way they classify them, have been labeled. And so the trademark has been put on them. And because the other people have the access to communication, they have labeled us this way. But the point I don't agree with is, if your son is a thief, call him a thief, right? What brought us here today? We are here because some people have stolen us dry. And the people, they have taken the money to their homes, and their families and nations are benefiting from, are pointing fingers, labeling you and I. Now, the anti-corrupt alliances, which is a coalition of alliances of concerned people, both governments, both NGOs, the World Bank, and everybody, they're now coming together and say, look, we are the ones who are responsible for these people's poverty. We are the ones who have stolen them dry. Now let us create a medium by which we can return what we have stolen from them to them, so that they themselves can begin to prosper economically and be able to take care of their people.
Mr. Akinde, let me ask you this question. Is the West responsible for a porous system that allows these people to steal?
Let me tell you, many years ago, I was a rep with the pharmaceutical company, international pharmaceutical company. They were the ones who taught us to know how to induce people in leadership, in government, to be able to get a better contract. And what I'm saying, when you talk about, it's not what people, all these things drill down the system, but they come from the upper limit is these institutions in the Western world who are paying huge bribes, and their banking system and nations that have provided the enabling environment to hide these things away to benefit their people. And then, like you said, they've labeled us as beggars. You've taken $1 trillion worth of, through bribe, you've taken $1 trillion worth of what belongs to me. In aids, in grants, and whatever you call it, you gave me 134 billion, and you are pointing finger at me. Who is the thief? So, what Cameron did is that's the way they've been doing it. He didn't know that the press would catch it. He was talking to the Queen about Nigeria and Afghanistan being fantastically corrupt. Are you with me? So what did our president say? Okay, look, we agree. But you are the one who has taken all the money. Bring it back.
Mr. Naji, let's leave corruption at the top for a bit. And let's talk about corruption,
At other levels.
Yes, because there are other levels of corruption. Yes. It's not just the big money, the Halliburtons that are bringing corruption into Nigeria. The gate man, for instance, the filing clerk in the ministry who hides your file and wants to be given a little inducement to produce it. So how do we deal with corruption at every level in this country? Because now the fight is going to be on all fronts.
You see, when we talk about corruption, we need to clearly understand what that concept is. Corruption is a very broad term. Very, very broad term. But if you want to funnel it down, it means doing something untoward, something that is not right, that gives undue advantage to yourself, to a class of people, a group, to the disadvantage of others who are so entitled. That's corruption. Now, it encompasses nepotism. If you have your MD of a company, you know that your brother is not qualified, you give him the job, as against those who are very, very qualified that would have given much more growth to that company to be able to employ all those other nonsense people that you want to put in there. You understand? That is corruption. If you belong to a particular religion and somebody of your own faith is interested in a job, you give it to him, not because he's competent to deliver, but to the discomfiture of the other person who belongs to another faith but who is better qualified. That is corruption.
Mr. Nagy.
So corruption is not only the monetary aspect. So now, these people you mentioned at the lower level are responding to variables beyond them. Do you understand? It is not therefore to justify that such behaviors are correct, because there are a lot of other poor people that, after all, somebody brought money that was found at the airport, and her salary was less than 5,000 naira from the report or something like that. And nobody has recognized her.
Does poverty make you corrupt?
Poverty predisposes. It does not necessarily.
Okay.
Because there is, human behaviors are not like animal behaviors, where they call SR mechanistic, stimulus response. You beat me, I bite you. Human beings mediate because they have a mind. They have intelligence in them. So they decide. For example, somebody might not want to take this thing because of his faith. He may not want to take it because he knows the consequences, that if he takes it and he is caught, he goes to jail. So that is what we are talking about, that this fight should be scientific. For example, behavior modification, which is what this government and everybody wants to preach for, preach. Behavior modification means you have to first and foremost unfreeze the undesirable behavior. Then the person lies labile and is available for change. Then you put in the kind of behavior you want in him and freeze his back. I give you a very simple illustration in the Bible as a Christian. Saul, everybody knew how bad Saul was to Christians. He was on his way to Damascus to hew down more Christians. But he lost his sight by divine intervention. And for him to get that sight, it was a condition that if you want your sight back, you must change. So that behavior of modern Christians have been unfrozen. And the necessity for his sight was the change that was desired. And then when he decided to now proselytize,